All right, welcome. I'm still unpacking this stuff, but I gotta weigh in on this. I'm a local of DC at the moment. I've lived here for about 4 years. I didn't grow up here. There's still some learning I have to do. So just for full transparency, I live in about this area in Maryland. This is Maryland. This is Virginia. This is the District of Columbia. For perspective, the District of Columbia is bigger than most people think, including myself. Before I moved down here, it's a pretty sizable district. I don't want to call it a city or a state. At the moment, it's a district. It's pretty big. This blue line is 495, which is an interstate highway, or 95, depending on where you're from. If you're from around here, it's probably 95. Technically, it's both. I call it 495. 495 is big. It's a big beltway. It's very busy. It's got a lot of bottlenecks, a lot of traffic. There are sections where you get like 270, Interstate 270 begins right here. 495 will go down to 2 lanes between the two spurs of 270, and that is a huge bottleneck. Okay, it's big. For comparison, just because I know Boston the best, I don't really not too familiar with beltways and other major U.S. cities. In terms of how far they are removed from the downtown area. But in Boston, this 495 is pretty comparable to 495 in Boston in terms of how far it is away from the center of the city. Downtown Boston to 495 is, 35, 40 minutes? It's about the same here. So I live pretty much on the Beltway. I can almost see it from my window. To the current arena, which is this red dot, for me it's about 35 minutes to drive. It's about 25 minutes through subway. That includes walking time, right? So at the arena, you get a transfer subway station. You have the red line connecting to the green line and the yellow line. And one station removed from, this is Gallery Place, Chinatown. This, where the Capital One Arena is, where the Capitals Wizards play. One station over on the subway is Metro Center, where you have the red line connecting with the blue line and the orange line. So you really got a center transfer point here, which makes it accessible, makes this specific location accessible for all of the entire subway system, which is fantastic. And keep in mind, you have bus connecting routes, you have commuter rails in both states that connect as well. You have Greyhound bus routes that connect to the subway metro from like New York City, and it's a very connected transit network, which is fantastic. Personally, it can be a little expensive. Probably not personally, just in general, it's more of an expensive subway to take, and they go based off of zone-based faring. Okay, so essentially, the further you go on the subway, the more you will pay in a fare, and it can get kind of pricey. I think it's like, if you go, you don't even have to go the full distance, but I think the maximum fare is like, it's over $7 for one way. I think it can be as low as $2. But it's so for me, right here, if I'm going to Alexandria, I'm going to pay the max fare. I don't know. And then there's peak hours. I don't really know what's going on with the whole subway fare system is it's terrible. 4 years, I still don't know what's going on, and I use it quite a bit. But I think for off peak, we're talking about a $7 trip just to get back home on the subway. And I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about peak hour fares here, so I think that'll be cheaper. I think. Don't quote me on that because I really don't pay too much attention. But we're talking about a trip that's probably going to be around, if not more than $10, just to take the train, which is a lot. In Boston, I think the fare is $2.25 to go anywhere. So you're talking about $4.50 for a round trip in Boston. New York City, kind of the same thing. I think New York City is cheaper than Boston. I don't know. I don't have the fare stuff in front of me. Excuse me. Again, for travel time, for me, and I'm just going based off of myself, it's going to vary. And we'll get into that. Jeez. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Current location is about 35 minutes. The new location is about 40 minutes. The existing location is a lot less miles, whereas Alexandria will be a lot more miles, Potomac Yards, on the car. You also have to, you're likely going to travel 495. Not everybody's going to travel 495 to get to the new location, but you are likely going to have to travel on 495, and you have multiple bottlenecks throughout this system. You know, this bridge connecting Maryland and Virginia up here, was at the American Legion Bridge. It's, you know, it's a massive bottleneck at this point. It's, you know, it can be a Sunday at like 1 o'clock, right? Nobody's going to work. Everybody, for the most part, is out of church. People are just living their best lives. It'll be stop traffic at this point. And that's an example, and there's various examples throughout 495 that can really delay your commute. So for a 7 o'clock game to drive, we're probably talking about, for me personally, an hour and a half to get to Alexandria on any given day for a 7 o'clock game again. So you're leaving around like 4:30, 5 o'clock, right? Peak rush hour on the Beltway, not the greatest. Whereas this, you know, the current location, there will be trafficy spots, but for the most part, there's a lot of alternative routes you can take because of the grid system and kind of how the highways meander throughout the area. It's probably like a 50-minute drive in rush hour traffic to get to DC. So we're talking about like, you know, 30, 40, 50 minutes in terms of commute time driving. Now, in terms of gas, you know, $10 for a trip in gas to Alexandria seems a little high to me. Right? So it might be cheaper just to drive to Alexandria. If you could find good parking, great. It's probably cheaper to drive than take the metro. I'm a big fan of the subway. I don't want to have to worry about parking. I don't want to have to worry about paying for parking, what time the garage or wherever I'm parking closes, if I'm going to be able to get my car out, if they're going to mistake my car and tow it for whatever reason. I don't want to worry about having too many beers at the game, right? And then worry about driving or leaving my car or having to come back the next day on the train. Then you're paying for the commute both ways on the train and then trying to drive the car. And now you're talking about 2 extra hours out of your next day or an hour out of your next day. Right, it gets kind of hairy. I like to go out, you know, take the train in, right, meander about and have the train to take me home. I don't really have to worry about too much. It's pretty thankless. It's great. It's what I grew up doing in Boston. Took the train to a lot of Bruins games. It was fantastic. And that's the best option, in my opinion, to get to the current DC location. Now, keep in mind, where a Capitals fan is located, there's a good amount where I live currently, and nobody in this area, from what I can tell, is at all happy about this proposal. It's like, this is not an easy place to get to. Especially during rush hour, especially if you have to drive there, you don't know where to park and stuff. Parking at these newer type of facilities, entertainment districts, is more often than not usually it's a lot more condensed. There's a lot less parking available, and we see that with the Washington Nationals. They opened up in Navy Yard. It's around this area. Parking can be a little difficult. There are garages, but they're not cheap, and some of them fill up. You know, I mean, the Nationals are bad. Not a whole lot of people are going to the games. You get tickets for dirt cheap, but at the same time, you know, it's still expensive to drive there. Luckily, they have a subway station. It's on the Blue Line. Takes you right there. Blue Line? Yeah, I think it's the Blue Line. So why? Why are they proposing to move? Essentially, Monumental Sports owns the Capitals Wizards. They wanted $600 million from the District of Columbia to renovate their existing stadium. The district was like, I don't know, taxpayer money. You guys you're a very wealthy organization. You should be able to pay for this. And then Monumental Sports, the owners, were like, okay, guess we'll throw a few tens of thousands of dollars to do all of our studies at Potomac Yards in Virginia. The governor of Virginia will give us money, and whether you agree or disagree with the politics of the Virginia governor Glenn Youngkin, it is understandable that he wants some type of major sports team in Virginia. That's been a whole the state of Virginia has no major sports teams. So to have something, they've been trying hard to get the Commanders there. They've been trying hard to get the FBI headquarters there, which didn't come to fruition. They're trying hard to get the Capitals and Wizards there, but Virginia's like, yeah, we'll give you money and stuff. We got this nice plot of land, got a subway station that can be built. Like, we got this. And now DC's coming back and like, I guess we can give you $500 million. I know that's not quite what you asked for, but like, please. So keep in mind, the current lease, it goes to something crazy like 2042, but there is a buyout option. The owners can pay $35 million to get rid of their lease in DC and actually move to Alexandria. Obviously, this will have to happen pretty quickly, right? You have to have, at the very least, the arena built within 3.5 years, and you hope to have the entertainment district and all that stuff built as well at the same time. Otherwise, like, you're not going to have a place to play. You don't want to have a whole mullet arena situation like they have in Arizona for a year or two if this isn't ready to go. So things are going to have to start moving fast. There's a lot of government red tape that will have to kind of be meandered around. You're talking about there's a lot that goes into it. I see some of it from my current job. Like there's a lot. This is going to be a pretty big. There's going to have to be a lot of money thrown at the studies and all this stuff that goes into this. They've already thrown a lot of money at it, but there's going to be a lot more to come. So decisions will have to be made soon. Designs and all traffic impact studies and analysis and maintenance of traffic and all that. It takes time to really go through and have the state go through and the city go through and the county go through, or whoever's going through these plans, and come to some type of agreement or analysis or whatever. So it takes a while. Personally, this is my biggest beef is they're really pushing the idea of an entertainment district for the Wizards and Capitals. Honestly, like, the current location is kind of an entertainment district already. There's already a lot going on. There's great restaurants. You got Chinatown. It's already a pretty solid destination. You can make an argument that it's in the downtown area. There are a lot of destinations throughout DC. It's still going to be extremely more metro subway accessible than the proposed location, even if there is a new subway station there. Again, subway, it's going to take me an hour to get there, whereas it takes me about 25 minutes to get to the current location, which is crazy. Right? But, yeah. It makes sense. So this will be right next to, I don't know if I already said it, right next to Ronald Reagan Airport. This will be one station south of that. I fly frequently out of Ronald Reagan Airport. And it takes me about an hour to get there. It's not the funnest subway trip of my life, but we do it, and I don't have to worry about parking at the airport, which is clutch. So all right, going back to the entertainment district, I'm going to use another New England comparable, Gillette Stadium, where the New England Patriots play in Foxborough, Massachusetts, which is about halfway between Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston, Massachusetts. Two pretty major cities, two cities within proximity where their suburbs are, who knows, they're kind of disappearing. They merge into each other. The census, the locals, geographists all kind of can't decide on what town and city is a part of which major city suburb. It kind of works. It's the New England Patriots. It's not the Boston Patriots. It's not the Providence Patriots. Right? You're kind of getting both major cities' fan bases to kind of merge into one. And it works. It really does. And there's a lot of good. I don't want to say a lot, but there's public transit and stuff that helps connect this location as well. But it makes sense. It's kind of a major shopping center. There's a lot of big, don't want to say big, but there's good restaurants in the area, right? It's really a destination for 24/7. It makes sense with that location specifically because it's not in the downtown area, but it's in a pretty densely populated suburban location of two major cities, right? You're going to pull people from Boston and Providence. You're going to pull people from the major suburb areas. You know, the kind of the blurred lines. It's familiar with DC and Baltimore, right? You got two pretty major cities, tons of suburbs in between. People will live. I lived halfway between DC and Baltimore for about a year, and I would commute to both, and it was great. People do that in the Foxborough area as well in New England, but that makes sense, right? There's not a lot of major malls or destinations to go to in that specific area, but I mean, there's a lot of destinations in the area. This Potomac Yards isn't going to specifically draw people to Potomac Yards all year round. It will to an extent, but there's I don't know, if I'm living 20 minutes from Foxborough, I'm more likely to go to Foxborough than if I were to live 20 minutes outside of Alexandria, because there's a lot more going on in the area and there's a lot more to do, right? There's a lot more draws in the area. So I'd happily go to the waterfront for a meal rather than going to Alexandria. It's not the easiest to get to. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not the easiest to get to. Right? I could go to U Street or H Street or whatever's going on in the area. There's a massive mall 7-8 minutes away from me, right? I'm not going to go down here to go to, I don't even know, an Old Navy. There's an Old Navy right near me. I'm just going to go there, right? There's so many stores where I live. I don't even need to leave the city I'm in. So just for perspective, there's a lot of food and stuff in between where I live in Alexandria. For me, Alexandria is not a destination. I went down, I saw Old Town Alexandria several years ago. It was nice, it was fun. I recommend it to anyone if you want to make that trip. But am I itching to go back? No, because there's still so much more I have to explore. And I've been here for 4 years. There's a lot going on in the area. And I don't know. It's I don't know. So for me personally, I'm significantly less likely to go to a game in Alexandria. If I'm here in the DC area in 2027, if the stadium opens, if this comes to fruition, I'll attend a game to see how it is, to see the new arena. But I'm not going to make a habit of doing it. Whereas DC, I could just be in DC for the day or whatever and be oh, there's a Capitals game on tonight. I'll just go to that. And, I'll hop on the train and it'll be 3 stops away and it'll be great. And I just take the train back. I don't have to worry about a thing. Whereas, if you're in downtown DC doing stuff or getting off of work, you're I gotta take a train south for 25-ish, 20 minutes, I don't know. And then I gotta take a train back through where I was to go home, which can take another hour. And then it really becomes a suck out of your day. So DC, because it's so big, a central location I think is key. Again, I'm a little biased because I live in Maryland, and this is a lot further away. Right. Again, I don't know if I already covered this, but a lot of fans up in this area of the Capitals, good amount in D.C., but a lot of fans in Virginia as well. I think I'm just repeating myself at this point. So let me know what you guys think. Personally, I don't like this. I don't think there's a reason for them to move. I think it's purely because the owners don't want to shell out more money. If this is a cheaper option, and it brings in more income over the long term, as a business move, that's probably why they'd consider doing it, and pull the trigger if they do it. Personally, again, DC location I think is fantastic. I like Capital One Arena. I don't think it's a bad stadium by any means. I don't really think you need to do much in terms of renovations. I've been to stadiums that are in much worse condition and shape. For comparables, the Winnipeg Jets, right? It's a nice stadium on the outside. Inside, it could use some work, People aren't going to the Winnipeg Jets for the stadium experience. They're going to see the Winnipeg Jets. But Capital One Arena is a much nicer arena inside than Winnipeg. Just throwing that out there. I don't have any bias to either teams. I prefer watching the Winnipeg Jets, if I'm being honest. Not a big Capitals fan. But, it's like I got a local hockey team I can go watch and see any other team. Every team visits this arena every single year, and it's subway accessible. So it's definitely a positive. But, yeah. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think of this proposal? I think this is really polarizing in the D.C. area, whereas, if you're living in another state or country, it's kind of just like, okay, and if you really don't know DC at all, which, is fair, because I really didn't before I moved down, so no hate with that. You'll be like, oh, it's kind of close, I don't understand what the big deal is, when in reality, it is, but it's not, and it makes people's commutes to see the arena a lot more difficult. It feels like, I don't know, I'm just ranting right now. Obviously, if you're from the area, what do you think? If you're not from the area, what do you think? Let me know. This is curious. For me, it comes down to a lot of money between the owners and the state and the district. The state of Virginia will throw a lot of money at this team. They have with the Commanders. They will with the Capitals and Wizards. I got a Wizards jersey. I probably should have worn that. But I don't know. I personally don't think it's better for the fans or the experience. Yeah. All right. This is a long video. Just wanted to weigh in real quick. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. Let me know what you think. Take care, all right?